Hello, YouTube time again. I wanted to introduce you to what I call the Insane Asylum engine control. I've got a rag taped here to my camera again. Look, this is something that shows up P0303, P305, your misfire codes. Tell you why. This isn't directly hooked to the computer. What talks to this and this talks to the oxygen sensors, and the oxygen sensors talk to this, how much to feed. Okay, it increases your manifold pressure. You see, I went and changed this out. Okay, this thing will have you changing spark plugs, wires. It wasn't a bad idea for this because I put all the used shit back in it and it wasn't running right in the winter, but it was just a slight miss and a slight lifter tick. Nothing I was concerned about. But fuel atomizes differently in the winter and the fuel mixes were much different. What I blame knocking this out is this ethanol fuel. I used my test kit. It's over 20% ethanol, and you can even smell it when you're putting it. It doesn't have that gasoline aroma, because when I get a tank full of that stuff, the Orange Menace is here, my supervisor. He's here to give the truck a CAT scan. There it is, CAT scan. What am I going to owe you for the CAT scan? You don't know? Okay, end of that. So, mechanic told my buddy that was just here a couple days ago. He was getting the misfire codes. The other thing this thing will do is you're going to lose power. Sometimes without the AC on, but particularly if you have your AC on, your oxygen sensors, they can't bump it up anymore through the computer. They can't give this any more draw. It's not going to do it. It's a good thing. I might even replace these oxygen sensors if the new one doesn't fix it. It's on its way. I've had a few days, but what I did was I put an old one in here, and it's located there on your fuel rail, and I knew that one was halfway decent. It's just that that one would lose power whenever the customer would put on the AC. And Lord and behold, I changed out the map sensor. Okay. Now, normally if you're getting a rough idle, sometimes if you get a stall, that is your EGR, and that will throw a code. Normally if it's a cam sensor, because a lot of people think you're getting like an inverted start. In other words, it doesn't know where to start the engine is what they tell you. It's not the cam sensor. Okay, if you crank the key and it doesn't start, and then you crank the key again and it starts, that's because it built up fuel pressure and the computer's sending a heavier burst. But as soon as you start running the truck, it might run rough or it might run a lot smoother. In this case, I knew what was wrong with this fuel pressure regulator. I saved my old parts that halfway work, because if you have one symptom and whatever you changed out that works, the way you remember it working, and it changes the symptom, then you know that you're onto the right track, and then you can go buy a new one. Because I was not going to go throw Advanced Auto Parts another $100 is what they want for one of these now. And there's several different types of fuel pressure regulators. Okay, there's one that looks exactly like this, but it's bigger right here on the tip, on that nipple. Reason for that is it's a flex fuel. That's where I went to Pine Hollow Diagnostics out in State College, tried to contact them, because I knew already that the guy put the wrong injectors in, because these injectors work. The ones I got on eBay, the GM injectors, the injectors are fine on this truck. This is my culprit. His, or whoever the brain boy was, they put the injectors, the straight gas injectors, on a flex fuel engine. You can't do that because the computers run totally differently. Problem solved there for Pine Hollow Diagnostics. He also had another one where I think he was a little bit full of it, because he was talking about the cam sensor. It wouldn't, it would crank, and it wouldn't fire, and then he'd crank it again, and it would fire right up. Or after you shut it off, it won't start, and then you wait a minute and start it again, and it starts. This is usually the culprit, and it does not show up on the computer. Now, it's different if you're getting a misfire and an inverted start, and then you have a cam sensor code in there. Normally it's the cam sensor. The computers are pretty smart, but for the long run, this can cause you a lot of grief with those misfire codes, or especially if you're getting lifter ticks. because you're not building the pressure in the cylinders, and the valves in that are halfway opening, so the valves are slapping. Now this one's got a defined lifter tick, and that was me. I did something. It's a new motor. I might end up pulling the head and having to put a lifter in there because I left a rocker arm loose. But that was, I was rushing foul weather, and I was dealing with this thing with the misfires and everything, not really remembering. But I knew when the weather changed, and I thought back in my memory bank, this is sneakier than Mr. Potato Head, Hillary Clinton, and all Comey's thugs and stooges there in the FBI. This little thing is really sneaky. And catch my video on how sneaky these can be, because this is another really sneaky sensor. Sometimes this will not throw a code. In this case, it was throwing a code, but it wasn't bad. It's that you're not going to build up the manifold pressure. I even noticed it in the brake pedal. And then I was coming to a stop and I was getting a bit of a rumple in the idle. Well, see, that's all gone with this other fuel pressure regulator. So I know my problem is fuel pressure. I don't think it's going to fix the one lifter tick. I think that I'm going to end up, like I said, pulling the head. But it's better than tearing the whole engine down again and starting from, I don't think you make a mistake, sometimes you pay for it. I'm not perfect. Everything else I have, runs good. Now, if you have a bad EGR, let me give you the symptoms of a bad EGR. Sometimes they get clogged up. You want to run cleaners down there and all that other stuff, and it goes and hits your catalytic converter. Good luck to you. Sometimes it's just the gasket, and it won't throw a code if it's just the gasket. It'll be sucking air, not blocked up. Usually when they're blocked up, they throw a code. But if you're getting a rough idle, sometimes they're leaking around the EGR gasket on these. I talk particularly germane to what I work on is these Silverados, these GM engines. And at times I forget things, and sometimes it's a couple months later and it's like, whoa, geez, you shot yourself in the foot again. I'm starting a notebook now, and I might sell it. So if you guys that watch my videos and forward these to other people, because if you want to buy my book, my diagnostics on these Silverado trucks, if you don't have advanced diagnostic equipment, I might sell the thing for 15 or 20 bucks. That's cheaper than a Haynes manual, and it gives you a lot of answers to stuff like this. So if you are interested in that, I have a printing company now that I have a relationship with that I have to go talk to, as a matter of fact. Hit me up. Forward, like, and comment, please, on my ideas. And if you've ever had and discovered, let me know if you got had by one of these things, because it sure had me. I didn't have it, not at first. Now I do. But remember about sneaky sensors under the hood. So I'm going to start this as part one. The other one I get a little more involved in. You can get a knock sensor code from this. If your valves, like I said, if that engine is rocking back and forth and you're not building fuel pressure, you're going to have a knock sensor code. Now, my knock sensor code could be related to that lifter tick. It's pretty pronounced when I start it up, but a minute or two later, after it idles down, it goes away totally. That's just the fact that the lipster is just, I was hurried putting old parts in a new engine. I try to talk people out of it like my son, and they yell at me. Well, I'm doing it for you. I have all the time in the world being retired. Well, not really, not with all what I'm under. But I'll rip it back down. I'll take my time with it. I know it runs, and it runs really good. And once I put the new, not the new, but the other fuel pressure regulator in there, she really ran pretty good. Like I said, I wouldn't take her up the hill because I could. It was just that this guy was getting the rough idle once it got hot. The dynamics of your engine, your oxygen sensors, that will change the dynamics as your engine heats up. They might function perfectly fine cold, and that's why I'm thinking about changing the oxygen sensors. I got a nice gust of that wind. I've spent the last couple days, I've got another Ford truck in here, and I've got to get to it. It's been raining where I'm chasing my hat down the driveway. I forgot to paint the fuel door on this truck, so I got to spray that real quick. And then I have another, I think that's an F350 or an F250 down there. I got to get to that one. He's got some good size rust holes. I might even talk him into another expense, getting maybe a slip over rocker. I was poking at it the other day, and there's a lot more rust than is apparent there, so we'll see what he's interested in doing. Thanks for watching my videos. Let me know if you want to see me create a book on some of this stuff and how sneaky it can be. Thanks for watching my videos.